Repeating lines is nitpicking, in my opinion. Well, it's not something that ruins the experience, no. And yes, you're right, it is nitpicking. That doesn't mean that it's invalid to bring up. What the fuck do you mean, man? All I'm saying is, it's something I have noticed. Especially when there's like 3 voice lines that are played so loud all the time. When there's a limited amount of lines and you hear them all the time, it is very jarring, yes. It's something that I think that Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla all have suffered from, which has affected the immersion a lot, is the world isn't necessarily... It doesn't want you to hang around. And an RPG should make you want to hang around and just take your time and just experience everything. All the different kinds of RPGs do it. It's like hang around. You want to stick around. Mass Effect, Skyrim, Oblivion, Grand... And they'll do this through various different ways. One of the ways is by having the NPCs in the world give you a wide variety of lines, actions, routines and things to keep you interested and make you feel like you're immersed. Of course, all these other RPGs achieve it through different means, but I think Skyrim, Fallout, Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout all did it in similar ways, and it was really quite nice. It's not as bad as it was in the other ones. Yeah, but it's still noticeable. That's the thing. It's just still noticeable, is all. The game isn't built with under the impression that the players want to stick around and find out more, you know. They don't and see what happens and maybe just live in the world for a minute. You don't live in the world. You find yourself just playing a game. And I feel like that's the biggest hindrance for Assassin's Creed RPGs, is that it doesn't try to be a world that feels lived in. It doesn't try to make a world that feels particularly immersive. It doesn't give you these immersion tools. It doesn't give you any form of reward for taking your time and not interrupting the atmosphere. It still, in that sense, feels more like a checklist game than anything else, because you just can't live in the world. Open world is not an RPG, exactly. There's a difference between an open world game and an RPG. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an open world game. It's got an RPG on its marketing label. Oh my god, that man bled. It's got open world on its marketing. And, well, it's got open world RPG all over it, you know what I mean? Like, in the marketing especially, but when you play the game itself, it borrows features from RPGs, but just because Ubisoft says, oh, it's a role-playing game, doesn't make it a role-playing game. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned about Ubisoft and their role-playing game approach as well, because when it comes down to that and it's like, oh, it made loads of sales, so like that, you full well know that means the role-playing aspect is here to stay. And the problem with that is they're not actually role-playing games. They just borrow gameplay mechanics from them. But are they immersive? No. Are they fun? For sure. Yeah, no worries. Valhalla's a game that I really enjoyed, and I have a lot of love for it, of course, in a lot of ways. But I wouldn't call it a role-playing game. But it's definitely not what I'd consider to be a good RPG. It's just a decent game in other respects. I'm gonna stab this man. But you know what I mean. I just feel like we haven't actually seen an Assassin's Creed RPG yet, is half of my point. We've seen Assassin's Creeds marketed as RPGs, we've seen them try to borrow features from RPGs, but have we seen a proper immersive role-playing game, Assassin's Creed, you know, really? I don't believe we have. Like, no. If we're going based on what RPG means, but we all know that it's almost... It's a really difficult one to define. I think when it comes down to it, right, if Ubisoft made a proper like RPG, it wouldn't be a problem, because it'd be a proper role-playing game. Like if it was a proper good role-playing game, you know, I don't think it'd be a problem because you'd feel like you want to live in the world. If there's one thing that every role-playing game that I've ever liked has in common, it's that they're all immersive. They make you want to live in the world. They make you want to spend time in the world. They add replay value based on the fact that you want to be in this world. The characters are all fun and compelling, and you feel like you are, you know, almost connected to them directly because you just care about them. Let me take some examples for you. In Mass Effect, you got your boy Garrus, you got Rex, you got Liara, you got Tali, you've got all the rest of the characters. Some are shit, but for the most part, they're all characters that you want, you know, you care about because you feel like you are Shepard, and you feel like you're a part of this world. You feel like you're, you know, it doesn't feel like a game anymore. It feels almost real. It doesn't feel, it's not real, you know what I mean? You know it's not real. You know it's fun, but you know it, you just feel like it's proper escapism because, well, you feel like this world is lived in and it's something worth exploring that will reward you for simply being in it. That's something that I don't think Assassin's Creed has quite achieved yet, is giving you that care for any form of RPG approach aspect. He's running fast, he's just not going anywhere. It's like, this is the Jotun treadmill. I don't think any Ubisoft game I've ever played has ever immersed me, really, outside of the old Assassin's Creed games, but even then you don't feel like you're a part of the world because you full well know that you're not, and that's a part of the plot, and that's quite integral, and so that loophole suits those games just fine because they're not trying to be role-playing games. Whereas now they are, so that disconnect from actually being in the world is much more noticeable, and as a result you wind up going, hang on a minute, I don't really feel like this is a role-playing game. I feel like this is a role-playing game in gameplay structure. You have wild combat, you have quests, you have customization, you've got random numbers flying off your screen whenever you hit something because that's just what RPGs do for some reason. It's not, it's what some RPGs do. I don't understand why Ubisoft wants to die on that particular hill. But if Ubisoft is going to continue down the RPG route, you know what I'm trying to say is, it would help if they actually made a role-playing game. Valhalla, you mean whole day and then go to sleep? Exactly. Like, I feel like this is a hard point to argue in the sense that it's always bad. I like follow-the-road features because they allow you to do that. But like, The Witcher 3 has a follow-the-road feature. It's not too badly placed in that, but I feel like when you do follow the road features in any game, The Witcher, Assassin's Creed, you just zone out. In The Witcher, there's a chance that something might happen. You might come across something and go, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, or maybe, like, you know, like a quest. There's not much going on elsewise. In Red Dead, you've got a follow the road feature, but you still have to be somewhat engaged, as anything could happen. You could go flying off your horse. You could get attacked by like a snake, or maybe some good old outlaws will show up, or maybe, you know, there'll be an encounter, like some guy's been bitten by a snake, or serial killer, whatever, you know, stuff like that. Wolfman in the woods. There's all sorts happening that keeps you engaged. So it's a hands-on experience because it's, you know, it's not, it tries to not be like, right, okay, this is a game, switch off for 5 minutes while we go across this unnecessarily large map. No, it's, this map is perfectly sized, so you will keep you engaged at all times because we know we can fill that with stuff that will keep you on your toes. And that's, I think, the difference there. And I feel like if you're going to have a follow the road feature, you need to be able to throw a spanner in the works to make it sort of sometimes go, okay, well, something's happened now. And that's another thing, right?